All right, let's jump right in. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the invisible and, honestly, incredibly complex subscription model that operates just beneath the surface of the fitness industry. You know, we all think we know how a gym works, but the financial reality, it's entirely different from what meets the eye.
Picture this. You walk into your local gym on a Tuesday evening, right around 6 p.m. The place is absolutely packed. I mean, every single treadmill is taken, the weight room is overwhelmingly loud, and there's a line just to get past the front desk. Looking at this super energetic scene, you can't help but ask yourself, is this place just printing money? Like more people, more memberships, more profit, right? Well, the truth is, you're looking at the 1 hour of the day that lies to you the most.
So that brings us to Section 1, the crowded gym illusion, and how this is really just a subscription business.
To truly understand this, we kind of have to flip our whole perspective. We need to realize that a gym is rarely a true fitness business. Actually, scratch that. It's a subscription business that just happens to have dumbbells in it. The moment you grasp that fundamental difference, everything about how these places make and quietly lose money suddenly makes perfect sense. Now, the entire industry can basically be broken down into 5 distinct categories. First, we've got budget gyms. These rely entirely on massive volume, charging maybe $10 to $25 a month. Then you have commercial gyms, sitting right in the middle. Luxury clubs, which sell a whole lifestyle for over $150 a month. Boutique studios, built around highly specific classes. And finally, one-on-one studios. These guys don't sell memberships at all, they just sell a coach's time. But here's the thing, every single one of these is really just a different mathematical bet on volume versus premium pricing.
Moving on to Section 2, the shocking costs of opening a gym.
Think of a gym like a giant iceberg. Those shiny treadmills you see, that's just the tiny tip visible above the water. Plunging below the surface, you find the staggering, totally unseen startup costs required to turn an empty, echoing concrete box into a functional, legal facility that can safely handle sweating human bodies. $1 million. That massive figure is the upper-end cost just to unlock the front door of a mid-sized commercial gym. No way, right? But think about it. Commercial landlords want 3 to 6 months of rent up front. You need heavy-duty rubber flooring that can absorb a dropped barbell, which alone can run up to 40 grand. Then you need moisture-resistant locker rooms, specialized plumbing. The cash starts bleeding out before a single member even signs up.
And then there's a cost almost no one budgets for. Air. Literally air. Building codes rigorously mandate exactly how much fresh air you need per sweating person. So if you have 100 people on a 5,000 square foot floor, you are legally required to pump in over 2,000 cubic feet of fresh air every single minute. That is a ton of air. That's not just a ceiling fan. We're talking a massive industrial-grade HVAC upgrade that can easily slap another $50,000 onto your final bill.
Which leads us directly into what's known as the equipment trap. A baseline cardio section and some solid strength machines can easily cost $250,000. So the owner faces this brutal catch-22. If you buy the equipment outright, you completely drain your precious cash reserves right when you need them the most. But if you lease it, you get locked into a harsh 8% interest rate. And here is the real kicker. Even if no members actually show up, that strict contractual lease obligation follows you right out the door.
Now we arrive at the absolute core of this explainer. Section 3, the ghost member economy.
Okay, I want you to really lean in for this one, because this is the single most important and honestly highly counterintuitive idea in the entire fitness business. Everything hinges on this concept right here. Imagine 2 very different members. On one side, we have the daily regular. They show up 3 times a week, they use all the hot water, they wear down the treadmill belts, require freshly laundered towels, and they take up precious floor space during peak hours. On the other side, we have the January ghost. They showed up exactly twice in January and then never came back. But they keep paying every single month. So, who is more valuable to the gym? It's the ghost, for sure. The loyal regular actually drains the gym's resources, but the person who never shows up, they cost $0 to service. Their monthly payment is essentially pure profit.
This really illustrates the stark reality of the industry. Roughly 2 out of every 3 members, that's a whopping 67% of the base at a typical low-cost gym, are actively paying for a service they do not use. Let that sink in for a second. The vast majority of the gym's revenue is coming from people who are just sitting on their couches at home. And this isn't some weird accident. It is the fundamental business model.
To prove that this is totally intentional, let's just look at the math of the building itself. 10%.
A gym with 7,000 members is physically incapable of holding them all at once. If even 10% of those members decided to show up at the exact same time, you'd have 700 people cramming into a room that's legally capped for maybe 250. They would violate the local fire code within minutes. Gyms simply do not want everyone to show up. They are selling a statistical bet that you won't.
This brings us to Section 4, Seasonality and Hidden Traps, focusing on the financial life cycle.
Because this ghost economy completely dictates the incredibly fragile financial life cycle of a gym's first year, let's look at how the calendar actually flows. It introduces massive seasonality and a whole host of hidden traps that can easily wipe out an unprepared owner. So January is this massive spike. 12% of all annual signups happen in this one single month, mostly thanks to New Year's resolutions. But by February, which is the highest risk month, that initial motivation starts to fade. By summer, up to 80% of those resolution members have quit showing up entirely. Smart owners know they have to hoard that giant pile of January cash just to survive the brutal, quiet summer churn.
And while owners are desperately trying to manage that seasonal cash flow, they often step on hidden landmines, like the music trap. You see, you can't just plug in your personal streaming playlist at a commercial gym. You are legally required to pay for public performance licenses, which can run up to $4,000 a year. If you try to skip this, these organizations will actually send undercover field investigators right into your gym. And the penalty? Absolutely devastating federal copyright fines of up to $150,000 per song. Yikes!
Moving to Section 5, the friction of quitting and why we stay.
So knowing that ghost members are funding the entire operation, why on earth do we keep paying for something we don't even use? Well, deliberate roadblocks are built entirely to keep the ghost member paying month after month after month. First, there's optimism. The membership is basically a promise to our future selves. Second, it acts as a commitment device. We kind of think the financial sting will somehow force us to go. And finally, there's pure inertia. Canceling means admitting the plan failed, and nobody likes that. Gyms actually reinforce this emotionally through their physical design too. Clean layouts reduce intimidation, and softer lighting in recovery areas keeps members emotionally attached to the illusion of fitness, even if they're only visiting like once a month.
But when you finally decide to break that inertia, you immediately hit the cancellation friction. Leaving is literally never as easy as joining. Contracts deliberately require 30 to 60 days of advance notice, often demanding you cancel in person or via certified mail, which practically guarantees the gym gets at least one more month of your money. Regulators have definitely noticed this, by the way. The FTC tried and failed to stop it with a rule in 2024, but places like New York City pushed through a local click-to-cancel mandate that gets implemented in October 2026. Ultimately, this friction exists for one simple reason. The business relies on people who actively wish they weren't paying. Which brings us to our sobering climax. Section 6. How gyms actually survive by navigating costs.
So how do operators actually navigate all these traps, the wild seasonal swings, and the heavy reliance on ghosts just to squeeze out a sustainable living? To understand survival, we first have to look at some spectacular failures. Take Bally Total Fitness and 24 Hour Fitness, for example. Both were these massive chains with full parking lots and thousands upon thousands of members. Yet both suffered massive collapses. Why? Because of their debt structures. They built these vast empires on long-term finance contracts and carried heavy debt relative to their cash flow. It proves a totally vital point. A packed floor cannot save a gym if the underlying math of its fixed costs completely breaks down.
So, the really crucial point here is the mechanical math of an independent gym, which boils down to three brutal realities. First, an owner typically has to cover around $30,000 in fixed monthly costs. To put that into perspective, they need about 337 paying members just to break even. Second, they have to somehow survive 12 to 18 months of brutal cash burn just to reach that number. And third, they have to consistently outpace an industry average of 30 to 40% annual member churn. Surviving that first year is literally a race against a rapidly bleeding bank account.
Because relying on basic membership growth is kind of like running in place. Gyms absolutely need a lifeline. Personal training is that lifeline. But a one-on-one trainer hits a natural revenue ceiling pretty quickly. They only have so many hours in a day, right? The real money, the real game changer, is in semi-private training. By putting 4 clients together at $40 each, the trainer pulls in $160 for that exact same hour. This highly profitable shift to small group training absolutely shatters the revenue ceiling and keeps a ton of gyms financially afloat.
When we put this whole shebang together over the course of a year, we see two very, very different realities. In the optimistic scenario, where you have low churn, a great neighborhood, and really strong personal training, an owner might take home a solid $70,000 to $180,000 in profit. Not bad. But the realistic scenario is terrifyingly close. If churn ticks up even slightly, or a new budget competitor opens down the street, or maybe those expensive treadmills break faster than expected, that comfortable margin quietly slips right into single digits, or even an outright loss. The margins in this business are razor thin.
Which brings us to our final thought. The true nature of this entire industry is actually pretty simple. It's never really about how many people you can get to sign up. It's about how well you can survive on the people who stop showing up. After seeing all the math, the deep psychology, and the hidden traps, it really makes you wonder, who is your gym membership really funding today? Anyway, thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.